Hello and welcome, I am Raziel, and to continue with this month of getting started into wargaming, I would like to talk about rulebooks. Rulebooks are one of my favourite parts of the hobby. This is probably my weirdest side of the hobby coming out, and I do enjoy a good rulebook. I do enjoy reading a rulebook. I love it. And it's not just for the lore either, it's for the rules. I actually enjoy reading the rules, and seeing how the game goes together and how it works. And, the numbers, the statistics, all of that completely fascinates me. I have a vast collection of rule books, even for games I don't even play or are dead. Because I just like the rule books. I really am fascinated. Anyway, the thing is, rule books, like starter sets and starter armies, aren't just this one thing. There is many different styles of rulebook to talk about and kind of get your head around. Now, I kind of sort of categorized these very briefly. You have the quick reference sheet, which is basically that. It just has the rules very basic on it, so you can look at it and just say, yes, I need this to roll, or I can only move this far. One page rules, whole rules is basically a quick reference sheet, basically. It's not a bad thing, especially if you want to just take something out, play it. You don't need, a whole huge book to do it. The second is a core rulebook. These are rulebooks which tend to be more very compact. They just have the very basic rules in them. They don't really extend into missions, campaigns, and more advanced rules. They are very slight. They tend to be more magazine sized, and something might be called a cool rulebook because it's the main rulebook. That's not quite what I would say was a core rulebook. It's just got the core rules in it. That's what I would say one was. The next is the rulebook. Now, rulebooks contain all the rules that you have. They also contain lore and everything you need. They have campaign rules, what your army's about, what your faction's about, and they just have everything you need to do and play the game. But then Mantic kind of have the full rulebook. Now, a full rulebook, which is not a little bit more than a rulebook. Mantic two types of these, by the way. One without lore and one with lore. But these are ones that have all the data sheets in them as well. So basically, you do not need an extra book or anything on top. You don't need to download anything. You don't need to buy anything else. You have everything you need for your army in a single book. Now, each of these have their pros and cons. See, a quick reference sheet, very basically, is what you need. But because it's very slight and doesn't have much, you're going to be missing out on a lot of rules that you're going to kind of need. It's not something that's going to be that in depth. Same with a core rulebook as well. Now, the bigger rulebooks, the ones that are full rulebooks, of course, these have all the rules. Unlike the first two, which are slight and slim and easy to carry about, these tend to be quite heavy and, they will be a bit of a weight for you to carry. So it can become a bit of a problem if you need more than one book. But then there are other ways around this as well. Conquest and Wild West Exodus and Dystopian Wars, I think maybe Bolt Action as well, but I've got to double check that, have A5 size books where you have all the rules, main rules in them, and lore, but it's in a nice handy little book which you can carry around and it's easy for you to carry. Something like the Horus Heresy rulebook or the Kings of War rulebook, which are quite big books and quite hefty, they tend to be a bit more of a burden to carry around. They are not something you can just simply pick up and take with you. You're going to have to anyway, but because they are big, they're obviously going to take up more space. You can download PDFs and whatnot of the rules. This is cool. So if you have an a pad or something like that, an Android pad or iPad, a tablet, that's what the word was, tablet, it becomes a little bit easier for you to have to carry it around, and it's not so hard. But like I said, these rulebooks are pretty thick and pretty heavy, so it does come into a bit of a problem that way. Now, I'm not slagging off Games Workshop, but it does need to be mentioned when you talk about the other parts. It's the rulebooks are the main part, but you have these like codexes and supplementaries and things you need as well to play the game. Such as Wild West Exodus, you do need to download the unit cards for your game. And for Mantic, you have the data sheets already there. But with Games Workshop, you do need to buy another book. And with some armies, you may have to buy up to 3 books for it. And outside of the financial cost, of course, this adds even more weight to your bag. These books are not slim, they're not small, they're not paperback. They are heavy. If you're taking something like Imperial Fists, I'm sure it's Imperial Fist because you can have there's at least an Imperial Fist character on unit in both Cities of Catonia and the Exemplary Battles, or the other one, as well as the Liber Astartes. So, that's something else you've got to bear in mind is how much extra weight. And then there's the layout. A lot of rule books tend to be well laid out. They sort of say, basically, the rules are laid out in the actual sequence of the game. So you'd have movement, shooting, melee. And the actual rule book is laid out the same way. And this is sort of thing you need to look for, is how it's laid out and how easy it is to get to certain rules, like special rules or character rules or anything like that. How easy it is to do that. Having an index is fantastic for that, because you can just go, right, what does this rule do? I need to go to this rule. Right, back to the index. You're not flipping through the book. And I have no issues with indexes in rulebooks because they do provide a useful guide to you so you know where to go next. And when it comes to the lore, I tend to find the lore needs to be somehow either separated from the main rules with photos, or they separate the basic rules to the advanced rules. So they can either be used as a divider for beginners to more advanced people, or they can be used, or they can be divided from the rules with pictures. So it's kind of saying the lore is separate. Having the lore, I don't mind like little stories and stuff like that, but having the lore in with the actual story rules kind of can make it a little bit harder to find certain rules. It can be a little bit more tricky, and this includes putting them in like with data sheets, having all the rules of the data sheets right next to their lore. It might be convenient, it might be nice, but in my opinion, having all the data sheets on their own are separate from the rules makes it easier to go through the data sheets. It does. So there you go. And anything else? No, that's about it for rulebooks. And my favourite rulebook, believe it or not, is the Kings of War 4 one, which has the data sheets and everything else in it and the lore. That's my favourite one. It's a well laid out rulebook. It's really easy to read. Really, really fun. My least favourite rulebook has to be, at the moment, the 7th edition Warhammer 40k. It's just too much in it. And actually, before I continue, just a rule bloat as well. It doesn't need to be so many rules to do one thing. Such as Games Workshop, I'm not ragging on, I'm just saying this is what happened. Having to actually do an FAQ on the movement phase, which is the most basic phase of any game. Them having to do an FAQ for that is kind of shows how a bad rule set is written. If you have to do that, if you have to somehow fix the movement phase, which is basically the same for every single game. What's your movement? 6. That's how far you go. Right? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video of this month of getting started into wargaming. And tomorrow is going to be a bit about painting. It's not a painting guide per se. It's more like getting the paints you need and modelling stuff. Okay? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you are getting interested in wargaming, don't forget to look out for Wayland Games down below. They are they offer a discount on most of your wargaming, up to 20%, and free delivery after £20. There is Forbidden Planet as well, for DVDs, mangas, all that cool geeky merchandise and stuff like that. There is also my merchandise, stickers, cups, notebooks, bags, all sorts of fun, cool stuff. There's my comics as well, Skyforge. Give that guy a kick. Let's get him up in the algorithm. And finally, Patreon, because business. Bye bye.